And we'll have more on that interview at 6 o'clock. Well, the ANC has expressed regret at the resignation of Mavuso Msimang. Speaking in Welkom in the Free State, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa says the party accepts Msimang's decision with a heavy heart.
We all joined the ANC on a voluntary basis as individuals, and he has reached a stage where he would like to step down from being a member of the ANC. The ANC continues to grow. There are many other members who joined the ANC on a continuous basis. So we do regret the decision that he has taken. And I'm rather pleased that he says he will want to continue being involved in one shape, form or other in the matters that have to do with our country. And so with time, maybe he will be able to participate with us again. We still hold him in high regard. I hold him in the highest regard. He's one of our outstanding veterans.
Well, NMU Centre for the Advancement of Non-Racialism and Democracy Director, Professor Bheki Mngomezulu joins me now. Prof, good evening. Welcome to the program. The resignation had nothing to do with Mbalula, but more to do with the risk of the party losing the elections, afraid of coalitions, and didn't want the ANC to end up in one. Of course, we're going to play the second part of that interview later on. We might hear a little bit more. But your thoughts on what he shared about his resignation so far?
Thank you very much for having me, and good evening to your viewers. This is a sad day indeed. First of all, I must say that it's sad because here we're talking about someone who has been with the ANC for over 6 decades, as he correctly pointed out. And if you read that letter, you really feel like crying, because you can tell that Dr. Mavuso Msimang did not just go to bed, woke up tomorrow, and then he started drafting that letter. It has been a long time coming. And he indicates that he has spent more than a decade trying to reason with his colleagues in the ANC, but unfortunately, this did not come to fruition. And the other thing that I applaud him for, in the content of the letter, he keeps doing what we know the ANC for, that is using we, as opposed to what we have seen happening lately. When the party is not doing well, we start pointing fingers. We hear ANC leaders saying, so and so is to blame, that's why we're not performing well, so and so should be getting the credit and not the other. So all of which are wrong. So I think that the resignation of Dr. Mavuso Msimang is in fact a watershed moment for the ANC, given the work that is done and given the frank manner in which he has outlined issues that are bedeviling the party, and even provided solutions as to what needs to be done.
Well, to your point now, he's always been a public and vocal critic of the ANC's decisions and failures, and just as he shared in that interview, it seemed it became too much. He also said in his letter that efforts to decry or disapprove of corruption and its harmful effects of nepotism and incompetence were met by the leadership with a shrug or a promise, or at worst with slurs or hostility. His account paints a picture of a very intolerant, unrepentant ANC. What's your view?
No, he's absolutely right. Coincidentally, I've shared a podium with Dr. Mavuso Msimang. We've been hosted by some of your colleagues in the media space, and him and myself, we read from the same script. And coincidentally, on the 14th and the 15th of November, we hosted him at my institution, Nelson Mandela University, together with the Nelson Mandela Museum and the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. And we had invited him specifically because we wanted to have a frank discussion on issues that are concerning the country, starting with ESCOM, of course, Transnet, all the issues that he has outlined both in his letter and then again in his interview. So then I think that this was a long time coming. So that's why I'm saying that on the one hand, I am surprised, but on the other hand, I'm not, because he has been vocal on these issues. He didn't hide them. Unfortunately, those who were supposed to take decisions didn't want to take any decision, or they started to pretend as if they didn't hear anything. And I've also been making comments. Instead, people have been saying that I hate the president. Why should I hate the president? I have no reason. I cannot hate the president. I cannot like the president. All I can do is respect the president and respect the office that he holds.
So Dr. Msimang spoke, Prof, of powerful people and a fear to touch them. I was really hoping that he would provide details and names, but these sentiments have a familiar ring to them, don't they? Reverend Frank Chikane, 2016, saying that the soul of the ANC was under severe attack from its own members and leaders who were being corrupted and transformed into self-serving agents. In fact, he likened it to a cancer. Given that this is well known and it certainly seems to paint the party's leaders as arrogant and careless, why is it not dealt with?
That is $1 million question. Because these things have been out there in the open. The people he's talking about are not people you and I don't know. The Zondo Commission report is a public document, so everyone knows who was implicated and at what extent was each individual implicated. It's not as if he's thumb-sucking those names. They are there, everybody knows. So I'm not surprised that he didn't even want to mention them, because he would be just reinventing the wheel, repeating things that are already in the public eye. So I think he's right in not mentioning them, because some will come and say that he was supposed to have consulted them and say that he's going to mention their names and so on and so forth, when in fact everybody knows who those people are and how they are implicated in the wrongdoing. Because his main concern is corruption. And then we have, of course, the offshoots of that particular pandemic, because he's clear from the start that his main concern is corruption, and then all other related matters that spring from that.
So two things I want to get to. Hopefully we'll have time to complete those. And the first is, what effect is this decision likely to have on, well, the party, of course, but most importantly on its voters, its support base?
Definitely it will have an impact, particularly because there are people who have always voted the ANC, even if they are not members of the ANC. So if you are the would-be member of the ANC, you are planning to join the ANC, you will ask yourself a very critical question. Why should I join if those who are inside are exiting the stage? And why are they exiting the stage? Those are the kinds of questions that are most likely to get. And those who have been voting the ANC will also be asking themselves the same question. So yes, indeed, it will have an impact in the 2024 general election.
And then in a sense, it's just fulfilling exactly what Dr. Msimang was warning about and was concerned about, that the ANC is on the brink of losing power. Frank Chikane again warning about this in 2016, that if the problems inside the party were left unchecked, it could lead to the ANC losing a national election. In 2016, his prediction was, that would happen by 2030. But do you think anyone is really listening at Luthuli House?
I doubt it, because I'm one of the people, in fact, who has been saying some of the things that Dr. Msimang is saying. One of the realities is that the ANC support is going down, not because opposition parties are becoming stronger. The ANC is committing political suicide, in the sense that its dwindling support has nothing to do with opposition political parties. It has everything to do with factionalism in the ANC. It has to do with failure to do what countries like Singapore have done, putting people in places where they fit. And then, of course, we normally say that Singapore succeeded because they did exactly that. But in our case, the opposite is true. So he's absolutely right.
So let's go to this then. The ANC Veterans League, seemingly stoic, President Snooki Sikalala saying it's regrettable that he had decided to resign. And it's acknowledged and equally regrettable about what the ANC SG had said about the Veterans League undermining the ANC, although you heard Dr. Msimang saying that he had really penned his letter before Fikile Mbalula said anything. But then we played this bite before we came onto this interview of the president not giving anything away, saying people volunteer to join the ANC and then leave. He's happy that Dr. Msimang will still be able to fight for people. How do you interpret the responses to his resignation in the way that they were delivered?
No, they all responded like politicians. And those who are going to talk after the president will also behave like politicians. And never read anything from what politicians say. They will pretend that everything is normal when you and I know that it's not normal. Remember what Honorable Mbalula said when the deputy president was convening a meeting in Cape Town of different political parties to have at least an agreement, a framework that will be followed in case there is no outright winner in 2024, and then we have to go for a coalition government. Immediately thereafter, we have Mbalula saying that no, the ANC does not need anyone, it's going to win outright. I mean, that is denialism, because the reality is that the ANC will still have numbers because it is represented everywhere in the country, but I doubt if it will have the 50+1 threshold as we would expect.
All right, so let's quickly come to this one. He also said the Veterans League had specifically recommended that those accused of criminality or recommended for referral to criminal justice institutions by ANC commissions set up to investigate corruption, that they be ineligible for nomination to represent the ANC in the upcoming elections. And he said, unfortunately, the ANC NEC had shown no urgency to deal with the matter. What does this say about the real face of the ANC's commitment to fighting corruption?
You know, my sister, to answer our question, I will answer it by juxtaposing the ANC, NEC, and of course the UN Security Council. Because in between elections, the NEC of the ANC is the decision-making body. So if it can't make decisions when crunch time comes, who is going to make those decisions? So then it means then it's a dereliction of duty on the part of the NEC, because these issues have been out in the open. It's not as if the NEC is not aware of these issues. And of course, as Dr. Msimang was saying, the Veterans League made it clear all those who are implicated, they must not be eligible for any nomination, so that at least the public out there will be convinced that the ANC is serious about the renewal. You cannot renew an organization based on misinformation and then, of course, the opposite of the truth. So that is a fact. So basically, then what it means is that all the issues that he has been raising, the NEC has not listened. If it listened, it would have acted, but it has not. And I think the main reason is factional politics. If you are in the right faction, it doesn't matter how many wrongs you can commit, you will still be safe. If you are in the wrong faction, you will go in the wilderness 1 minute, just like the DA did when you have Breitenbach saying certain things, no action. And then you have someone else commenting about Israel, immediately they are punitive action. So what is happening in the ANC is not new, it's happening also in the DA. So basically we're in trouble. Then let us admit that one.
Well, you called it a watershed moment at the beginning of our interview. Let's see what impact it has on the dominoes in this game as we head into the 2024 elections. It certainly is a lot for us to talk about and a lot of conversation being generated by these latest developments. Thank you as always for availing yourself. We appreciate it. NMU Centre for the Advancement of Non-Racialism and Democracy Director, Professor Bheki Mngomezulu.